only focus of attention right now from the American administration, it's the Hormuz Straits. It's not the nuclear weapon, it's not the enriched uranium, it's not the monitoring of the Iranian status of its nuclear program and so on. So this is something that indeed worries Israelis.
President Trump apparently seems unable to bring the conflict with Iran there to a close. And in the hope of shaping the way he might try and do that, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting him today at the White House. Now, the Israeli leader has been pushing for such a meeting for weeks, and it was finally confirmed in recent days as part of the Israeli leader's plan to attend the funeral of Senator Lindsey Graham. Well, it could be a strained conversation because Trump is pushing Netanyahu to wind up Israeli military operations in Gaza, Lebanon and Syria. Meanwhile, Netanyahu says the aim of the conflict or war with Iran should still be regime change. Well, joining us now from Tel Aviv is Ksenia Svetlova, a former member of the Israeli Knesset or Parliament and now a policy fellow. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Times Radio, Ksenia.
Definitely.
Well, what's the big item on the agenda from your perspective today at this meeting at the White House?
Well, it's without doubt, it's Iran and the possibility of the returning to the widespread hostilities against Iran. This is something that Netanyahu is trying to achieve. It's unlikely, though, that in this meeting there will be some kind of announcement in this spirit. This is from what we know, from what is happening, the discussions that are happening in the White House, and the divisions between Jerusalem and Washington are very clear. But nevertheless, they are going to discuss Iran, and Netanyahu, for him, it's a chance, of course, to use this meeting for his election campaign. The elections are due in 3 months in Israel. And yes, indeed, as you mentioned, he tried to secure this meeting for weeks. So for Netanyahu personally, politically, it's an important achievement.
He's also been saying, hasn't he, the Israeli Prime Minister, that the issue of Iran's nuclear program still has to be fundamentally dealt with, and that's what seems to be lacking. I mean, not just an absence of regime change, but a lack of an American way to bring an end to that nuclear program, or bring it under the kind of deal that President Trump himself opted out of. So how big an issue is that then, the nuclear question for the Israeli leadership?
Well, indeed, it's a huge issue. And also Netanyahu hears time and again from his critics and also from his opponents in the Knesset, in the opposition, that if initially this war was launched in order to prevent from the Iranian regime to have access to a nuclear weapon. So what does it mean that right now, the only focus of attention right now from the American administration, it's the Hormuz Straits. It's not the nuclear weapon, it's not the enriched uranium, it's not the monitoring of the Iranian status of its nuclear program and so on. So this is something that indeed worries Israelis. Not only supporters of the PM, but also, of course, everybody who cares about Israel's security. But indeed, it seems very difficult right now, because with all of the pressures on the American administration and with the very low support for this war in the United States, to try and again, to shed the light on, that particular issue. And despite, Trump returning time and again that, well, I will not allow the Iranians to have, the nuclear bomb. It's unclear how exactly is he going to secure that.
Yep. I mean, you've mentioned the prospect of Israeli elections in October, but of course they come just before the midterms in the US. And one thing that the president seems absolutely determined to do is to show the American public that he's the boss in this relationship. A lot of commentary about whether Netanyahu talked him into this Iran war in February. And time and again, he seems that he's trying to show that, which potentially, I guess, means that Netanyahu has to take some political risks at home. I'm thinking, for example, of pushing ahead with the Gaza plan, the Trump plan, which means letting an international force in to Gaza, something I'm sure Netanyahu wouldn't like, but apparently the Israeli government agreed to that yesterday.
Well, this is a part of the bargain, and I just have to remind that the Israeli government actually agreed to Trump's plan, and just like Hamas did at the time, they embraced, and also it was voted in the Knesset, not only in the government. So he is obliged, not only due to his personal relations to Trump, but also by governmental a resolution, and also the decision that was made by the Knesset to follow suit. But I think that he hopes that with also, unwilling partner on this other side, meaning Hamas, that declined to lay arms for now, this issue will be stalled. And even, if the government right now says yes, he can do it to not to get in the crosshair with Trump, but it doesn't risk him much, because it doesn't mean that Israeli armed forces, the IDF, will be withdrawing from all of the territory in Gaza that they're holding on.
Well, that's the plan, eventually, isn't it? If the security assistance force, which the Israeli government apparently agreed to yesterday, goes in, the Israeli army does have to withdraw.
Eventually. This is the key word. We don't know how long, will this, process take. And we have the previous experience of the European monitors in 2006 in Gaza Strip, and it was an unfortunate affair, and eventually they disappeared from the Rafah crossing point. So I think that Netanyahu hopes in his heart that maybe this issue will resolve itself somehow. And for now, he can placate Trump, but also he is not obliged to remove the IDF from Gaza Strip, at least not until the elections.
Ksenia Svetlova, thank you very much indeed
for
talking to us.